Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, loyalists and heretic scum alike out there, boys and girls, we've got some things going on inside the Warhammer 40k universe, specifically in regards to the Henry Cavill show that's supposed to come over there on Amazon. Now, as many of you are very well aware, the show was announced several years back. This is something that's been around for a rumor for quite a long time, something that Henry Cavill and Games Workshop have kind of been hinting at, and it finally got announced a couple of years ago that this was supposed to go full bore ahead. Well, the problem we've got right now, ladies and gentlemen, is there hasn't been a lot of updates. There hasn't been a lot of information put out there on things, and the deadline is currently fast approaching for when they are supposed to have all of their creative differences nailed out, worked out, and that's supposed to end up coming here in December. But the problem is we haven't had a lot of updates on this going right now, and this is causing a lot of people to go out there and question exactly what is going on inside of the Warhammer 40k universe and what exactly is going on with Henry Cavill, Amazon, and Games Workshop when it comes to the TV series and what we're going to get to see from all of that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an article over here from Collider as well as IGN, both who are still going out there. Now, IGN kind of paints it in as a way that makes you think there might be a little bit more hope. Collider tries to paint it in a way that seems like a little bit more on the downside of things. So we're going to check out these articles. I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think might be currently going on inside of the things and whether or not I think the fact that no news might be either good news or bad news, depending on which way you end up thinking this might actually go, and considering the history of Amazon in recent years and some of the things we know about some of this studio, what the future of this might actually hold and where this all might end up at the end of the day. So I'm going to give you some of my opinions on this more than anything else, but we're also going to go over the Collider article and as well as the IGN and kind of give you their insight and what they think about things. But most of the time at the end of the day, there's not a lot of new information out there. So I'm going to be completely honest with you from the beginning of this video up front. This isn't a major update video. We really don't know a lot. It's more like the deadline is coming very close, and a lot of people are asking questions as to why the hell we haven't heard anything yet. And I've got some theories on that, and we're going to get into all of that in this video. So boys and girls, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share it with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because we're inching our way closer to 1,000, and I could not do that with every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment down below. Let us know, do you think it's a good thing that we haven't heard any kind of major deals or announcements coming out so far, or is this having you worried as that deadline comes closer and closer that we may never actually see our Henry Cavill Warhammer 40k series come to light out there? Let me know what you think about all of that down below. So from Collider.com over here, Henry Cavill's 40,000 is in big trouble. Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40,000 is in big trouble. And that's one of the things that we're worried about right here. So fans of the Warhammer 40,000 universe are eagerly awaiting the potential realization of a film and TV series adaptation with Henry Cavill leading the charge. But recent statements from Game Workshop have underscored the uncertainty surrounding the project. In its annual financial report, Games Workshop reiterated that the ambitious collaboration with the Amazon Studios hinges on a crucial agreement over creative guidelines, which must be settled by December 2024. Obviously, December of this year. So obviously, we've got basically at this point 4 months before they have the deadline actually reaches. And that's one of the things that makes me wonder. That's one of the things that makes me interesting, because if they reiterate that, the creative guidelines, right? Like, we know from the history of Games Workshop that they are very protective with their IP. They are very controlling of it. It's one of them situations where that's one of the reasons why we've never seen like a live action series or a movie or anything like that made out of the Games Workshop, out of the Warhammer 40k universe, no matter how much fans have wanted it for a long time. And honestly, I think we're currently in an era now to where we really do have the technology to properly bring it to life. If you've read the stories, if you've messed with any of the models, if you played the tabletop game, any of that kind of stuff out there. And it's one of them situations where I think we do have the technology to do this. Of course, I believe Henry Cavill is the person to do this. That's my favorite part about Henry Cavill, and this is the reason why. Because I'd always heard about Warhammer 40k, right? I'm not a fan that's been around for years. I'm only a guy that's been into it for a couple of years. I'll be completely honest with you. I am just your humble, common nerd. After all, I am no Warhammer 40k expert. I'm not really an expert on too much of anything, but I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, but occasionally a better than master of one. And so, especially when it comes to Warhammer 40k, you know, and it's one of them situations where I trust Henry Cavill above anything else. And one of the reasons why I turned to Henry Cavill and got excited about this series and stuff like that is because I'd heard about Games Workshop. I heard about how protective they were of their IP. I know how much of a super fan Henry Cavill was, just like he was of Superman and stuff like that. And that was something, this is a guy that I will believe 100% is one of us. He's a nerd. He's a geek. He's into all of the kind of same things that we are. He's passionate about all of this kind of stuff. I mean, one of the complaints we heard from him about the behind the scenes on the Witcher set is he wanted them to stick too much to the lore, and he was always playing the video video games because he loved this stuff. He loved the material. And that's one of the reasons why I got behind this series 100%, because I believe with Henry Cavill having the complete and total creative control that we'd heard that he actually had, that we might actually end up getting something potentially very well done. But if Games Workshop is having issues with Amazon and their creative guidelines, this could lead to the end of that project. And the real question about that is whether or not that could be a good thing or a bad thing. But like I said, we've also got IGN over here giving a slightly different perspective on things. IGN has a little bit more hope for this. So Games Workshop and Amazon have until December 2024 to agree to creative guidelines or the film and TV series, or they won't happen. And now these guys, Wesley and Poole over here, puts this in a little bit different perspective. He says, have faith. So Games Workshop has reiterated that Amazon's hotly anticipated Warhammer 40,000 film and TV series will not happen unless both companies can agree on creative guidelines by December 2024. My real question is, did IGN just rip this article directly off of Collider and just put a slightly different spin on it? I'm not entirely sure, but it sure seems like this. So speaking in its annual financial report, Games Workshop discussed the deal that granted exclusive rights to Amazon films and television series set within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, with an option for Amazon to license equivalent rights to the Warhammer Fantasy universe following the release of the initial Warhammer 40,000 project. So obviously they go through the history. December 2023, Games Workshop said it would work with Amazon. So that, God, has it really only been a year? Has it been literally less than a year for the official word to come out for all of that kind of stuff? I think that's when the final contract kind of stuff actually came out. But they said they will update us accordingly. Games Workshop said, like a Space Marine might tell a guardsman anxious about a coming battle. And that's one of the things that, yes, we do record these lives, boys and girls. So we did get a brand new subscriber. So shout out to getting us one closer to 1,000 in the middle of the video. And if you do want to ever catch us live, we do these streams Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. where we go over all the pop culture news, news and gaming news of the day. We talk about Warhammer. We talk about a lot of other pop culture, Hollywood, all of that kind of stuff. Come join us over there if you like that kind of thing. If you want to catch us live, you want to see me record these videos live and have your comments read out live on stream, come hang out with us on the live streams Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. on YouTube and on Rumble. They're left up on Rumble forever, but you have to catch them live over there on YouTube. So in December, so they talked about that, the creative guidelines. They said they'll update you accordingly. That means Games Workshop and Amazon have just 5 months to sort themselves out, or the Warhammer 40,000 movie and TV series fans of the grimdark universe so desperately want might never happen. If the Warhammer 40,000 project moves forward, Superman actor and Warhammer superfan Henry Cavill, the Hollywood actor is set to star in and executive produce the franchise, yada, yada, yada. While the concrete details of the show films are likely off, Cavill nonetheless sound excited to be bringing the grimdark universe to history. This is all stuff we've heard before, right? This is all reiterated information. This is nothing new whatsoever. So what do I think this means, right? That's the real question. That's what I told you guys. This was this was going to be a little bit more of a theory video, because outside of the new update of Games Workshop announcing at their annual shareholders report that, look, we've still got creative deadlines, we've still got creative differences that we have to work out, we have to get the guidelines set. And this is what I think might be going on behind the scenes. This is strictly my speculation. This is strictly my theory crafting. Now, I'm not a guy with inside sources. I don't have anybody telling me these kind of things from Games Workshop or Amazon or anything like that. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, okay? This is my theory on things, though, right? With what we know about Games Workshop, and even with the bit of controversy they've had over the last year with the female custodies and all of that kind of stuff, right? And basically having it out with the fans online and all the conflicts that caused and everything else. Even with that being said, with Amazon, knowing what we know about Amazon, right? And let me give you a quick little background on Amazon if for some reason this is your first time hearing about Amazon, the kind of stuff that they've got, right? Their person, and I cannot remember her name right now, but the person that's in charge of Amazon's actual, their studios, Amazon Studios. The lady that's in charge of that is very much a diversity, inclusion, and equity lady. She's all about the check boxes. She's making sure everything fits all of these requirements, all of that kind of stuff. All you have to do is look at the reason why David Zaslav scrapped the Batman Caped Crusader animated series, and they sold it off to Amazon, right? Because they've got race swapping, they've got gender swapping in it, so it fits all of those check boxes, right? Well, we also know that Games Workshop is very particular about their IPs and about how they control them, right? And we'd heard rumors coming out from the inside talking about how they wanted a reference to the female custodies, and that's the reason why that kind of stuff might have potentially been announced, and that might have been something, the kind of stuff that they were going for. And maybe that was what Games Workshop was like, okay, we'll grant you that, we'll give you something for that, right? But maybe Amazon asked for more. Maybe Amazon is asking for even more diversity, inclusion, and equity. Maybe they're asking for even more checkbox. Maybe they're asking for female Space Marines. Maybe they're asking for all of these things that violate the canon and the lore that Games Workshop's fans have fallen in love with over the years with the Warhammer 40K universe and fantasy and everything else that's come out of Games Workshop. If that is the case, I think that could be the best thing in the world for this franchise, for Amazon and them not to come to an agreement, for all of this to expire at the end of December, and for Henry Cavill and Games Workshop to start shopping this around to someone else. That's if that is the case. Now, that is only one potential theory, right? This could just be also at the exact same time in order to make the biggest splash, in order to make the biggest headlines, and to have all of the fans out there just on the edge of their seats the entire time, just gripping into those handholds as tight as they can, waiting to see what happens, and just go, you know what, we're gonna give you a Christmas present, right? We're gonna announce it at the very last minute. We finally got everything worked out behind the scenes. It's all gonna be good, right? But at the exact same time, if it does seem like they're getting closer to something like that, why haven't we heard any updates? Why haven't anybody said things are progressing nicely? Why haven't we had any comments from Amazon or Games Workshop on how things are progressing in the negotiations? And they say no news is generally good news, but in this industry, I really don't believe that. Between the leaks and the insiders that we have that have come out and talked about things, and the rumor mill and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to go over all of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to really get into the speculation on all that kind of stuff because I can't verify these sources. I haven't been around the 40K rumor mill long enough to know who's reliable on their rumor mill and who's not. I know that pretty well in Hollywood. I have sources that I know that I can trust that have been consistently right about the rumor mill, but that's one of the reasons why I haven't covered a lot of the Warhammer 40K rumor stuff, even though I know I've got a lot of Warhammer 40K fans out there on this channel, and I love you all for it. But that's the reason why I haven't covered that stuff. I don't think it's fair for me, someone who doesn't know the universe as well, to talk about those kind of things and comment on them. And I hope you all appreciate that, my honesty when it comes to that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if this isn't the case, if they are having rocky negotiations, then I think this might be the best thing for it, because we've seen the kind of nonsense that's come out of this kind of stuff. We've seen the kind of stuff that Amazon's produced over the years, whether it be what they did with The Expanse towards the end of the season and how bad that drifted off, what they did to The Magicians. If you saw the Magician series, I was a big fan of that for like the first 4 seasons, and then they decided to kill off the main protagonist, who was a straight white male. Oh my God. And then they made it all about the girls, and the series fell flat. The storytelling just didn't work. It was very boring. It was very bland. It was very dry. And I honestly just stopped watching it. And that's what happened with me in The Expanse as well. And I'm terrified of Amazon and the people that were responsible for doing those kind of things to The Expanse and The Magicians and those other shows that I've loved and really enjoyed from Amazon. Do that exact same thing to Warhammer 40K. I think that would be the biggest violation. I think that would irritate and make fans angrier than anything else in the world than actually not getting anything at all. That's one of the other reasons why I think not getting anything at all would be much better. I would much rather see us not get any show produced at all than have anybody's love or memories or Henry of either Warhammer 40K, obviously, or of Henry Cavill be tainted in any way because they decide to, bend the knee to Amazon's request in order to get this big fat paycheck. I don't think Games Workshop is that worried about that kind of thing. I don't know how their finances are behind the ground. I haven't heard anything about them struggling or having really any problems. As far as I know, all their new models sell. I know I've been buying a bunch of the stuff. I've got a million things that I need to paint and assemble and everything else. And so it's one of them situations out there where I don't think that's a problem. I don't think Games Workshop is worried so much about the paycheck to where they would damage their own brand or damage their own IP in order to just get paid, right? I don't think they're in that desperation point like what we've seen other people in the past where they sell their souls to these big corporations and have their stuff ended up completely and totally trounced upon, i.e., some of the Netflix adaptations we've seen over the years. But that also brings me to my next point about all of this. If this deal does fall through with Amazon, which actually at this point I kind of hope it does, but it's one of them things with if Henry Cavill really does have complete and total creative control and there isn't too much BS coming in from Amazon, then we might be okay with this series. But at the exact same time, I'm still always worried that those requirements will end up being forced into the show whether they want it or not. And we saw that happen with Henry Cavill and The Witcher and how bad that show got and how much the fans hated it and how much Henry Cavill was just like, screw this, I'm out, and left the series because of how much they were violating the lore. And I think honestly Henry Cavill would do that exact same thing if he thought this was going to happen. But his deal with Games Workshops and his deal with Amazon might be two separate things. So if Henry Cavill really does have just the deal with Games Workshop, which it would make a lot of sense for them to do that, everybody knows he's a super fan, he's a huge fan of fans, and fans are a huge fan of him. So it's one of those things that everybody likes him. It's a mutual beneficial relationship. What might not be a mutually beneficial relationship is Amazon if they're trying to cause Games Workshop and Henry Cavill to violate their own lore and their own IP in order to beat all their checkbox and diversity requirements. Why I think that might be a good thing if they split off away from Amazon. Because as we've seen, Netflix, even though I just criticized them for some of their live action adaptations from anime, Cowboy Bebop, anybody, but at the exact same time, we also know Netflix has no problem whatsoever relinquishing creative control. They're more of a distribution house than anything else, I think, at this point. I think they hire people that they think might do good things and they just let them do their own thing. For better or worse, we've seen that kind of how that's gone over the years. I think Netflix has started to learn its lesson with a few of those things because for whatever you could say about Avatar: The Last Airbender, as far as the story and stuff like that being kind of weak, it looked good. Like, it looked like the show that they were trying to represent. Unlike Cowboy Bebop. Obviously, you have the success of One Piece, right? That was absolutely phenomenally successful. The majority of fans were very happy with the adaptation. It brought in a lot of new fans, right? Which is honestly the goal of any adaptation, right? To bring in new fans. So that's my theory. Well, that's my theory about what's going on with Amazon. What I think would be a good idea was if this deal does fall through, Henry, Games Workshop, shop it over to Netflix, man. Netflix will give you full carte blanche, just like they gave Oda. They won't ask for any check boxes to be ticked. They won't ask you to put any of the diversity, inclusion, and equity requirements in there. They're just going to let you do your own thing. And if you end up proving it as successful as what Oda's done with One Piece, which, I mean, given One Piece is probably arguably a much more popular brand than Warhammer 40K, I still think you could have very similar success and have that exact same kind of superstardom and end up being a #1 hit on Netflix if you did that kind of thing. And Netflix has got the money. Obviously, so does Amazon. You know, they just wasted $1 billion on Lord of the Rings. But I just think that would be a better home. I think they would have more creative control. I think they would end up doing better. Now, do I have any information as far as just me spitballing this stuff off the top of my head? No. Do I have my theories? Yes, then that's what these are. I honestly believe it would not surprise me in any way, shape, or form that if we see this Amazon and Games Workshop deal collapse. Because Amazon is simply asking for too much. They're asking for all of their checkboxes to be hit. They're asking for all of that kind of stuff. And it's simply not going to pan out very well. It's not going to go over with Games Workshop, who is so very protective of their IP. So at the end of the day, we don't know what's going on, truth be told. Other than we know that these deals have to be worked out, that these guidelines have to be met according to Games Workshop, or the deal's going to go confunk. And guess what, boys and girls? They got 4 months. So time is a-ticking. So as to whether or not this deal actually ends up going through, I honestly don't know at this point. But what we do know is the Game Workshop is protective of their IP. Amazon really likes their DIE requirements and box checking. And that might not be something that goes over very well with Games Workshop, but I definitely know that is not something that's going to go over very well with Henry Cavill at all. And so, boys and girls, I'd imagine Games Workshop would much more likely rather break up with Amazon and try to shop it over to somebody else than ever break up with Henry Cavill when it comes to this kind of stuff. But as always, boys and girls, only time will tell. I'm still hopeful. I still have faith in Henry Cavill. I still have a little bit of faith in Games Workshop, but I have zero faith in Amazon. And I honestly really hope this deal falls through and they shop it off to somebody else who will actually respect the lore, respect the source material, and just let them do their own thing. Because trust me, Henry Cavill and Games Workshop in combination with letting Henry Cavill run the show, I guarantee you that will be a hit. But you can't have Amazon's restrictions, and that might be exactly what Games Workshop is avoiding. And for all our sakes, heretic and loyalists alike, I hope it's true, boys and girls.